Hello and welcome back. It is Wednesday. So today we're going to be talking about a muscular dysfunction per usual. And today we're talking about rotator cuff injuries and some sort of rehabilitation for those kind of injuries. So what is your rotator cuff? I'm going to pop a picture in here in a little second, but I'm just going to give you a quick brief anatomy overview. It's actually a group of muscles in your shoulder. I know the name kind of makes it sound like it's just one, but it's actually a group of muscles. And it's not just for rotating your arm, like the name implies. It's for all sorts of things. It's just shoulder stability and mobility in general, moving your shoulder back and forth, lifting it up and down, lifting your arm up and down. Throwing uses a lot of rotator cuff. It includes the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and the subscapularis. I've got my notes over here as usual, so if you're wondering what I'm looking at, it's always looking at that. I just always want to make sure that I fill as much education into these videos as I can. Like I said, it provides dynamic stability for the shoulder, and I will pop a photo in here so you can kind of see what it is I'm talking about. So how does it get injured? Tears are one way. Those can be partial or complete, and this happens most commonly in the supraspinatus. It can sometimes require surgery depending on how big the tear is, and it can be degenerative, meaning it just happens as we go along in our life, or it can be caused by trauma, especially when you put your hand out and you kind of stop your fall. That can certainly happen. There's also impingement syndrome. That's when the area that your tendon of your arm passes through becomes inflamed, which narrows that space, which then rubs against the tendon, and then it in turn becomes inflamed. So it kind of restricts the tendon's movement there. This can sometimes require surgery, but it's not very common to have surgery with impingement syndrome. Generally, this is caused by an overuse of the area. There's also bicep tendinopathy. This is an inflammation of the tendon at the long head of the bicep, kind of up here. You may feel kind of like a snapping sensation at the top of your humerus as you're moving your arm. That's generally an indication that it's bicep tendinopathy. And finally, we have bursitis. That's your bursa are fluid-filled sacs around your joints that provide that lubrication so that you can move them. You have two in your shoulder, so those sacs themselves can become inflamed, and that can usually, and it's most likely found in conjunction with impingement syndrome. So what do all of these issues have in common? Surprise, surprise, they're all caused by muscular imbalances, poor biomechanics, and postural issues. Just like most things in our life, when one muscle isn't working hard enough, the others tend to work a little too hard, and that can cause all sorts of muscular imbalances and all of the problems that I just mentioned. So what should you do what should you avoid during recovery? So obviously your doctor will tell you specifically what you should avoid, but any overhead movements, big no, don't do that. Movements that irritate your injury. I know it kind of sounds obvious, but if it hurts, don't do it. And then of course, sleeping on the affected side. That's just too much pressure. It's very uncomfortable. I know that we all have a favorite side we sleep on, so you might have to retrain yourself a little bit, but definitely please avoid sleeping on your affected side. Important to note, if you suspect you have a rotator cuff injury, but you do not have a complete diagnosis, you need to go get one. Go talk to your doctor. They'll want to do a CT scan or an MRI. You will require a rehab program that is specific to your injury. What I'm going to show you is some general post-rehab strengthening exercises. Think of this as more of a post-rehab maintenance than fixing the problem. You want to talk to your doctor and your PT to get that specific programming for you. To prevent re-injury, because it is very easy to re-injure the rotator cuff, you must address your other muscular imbalances. So this is why I want you to talk to a PT. They're going to be able to tell you, they're going to be able to give you a full overview of your posture and your muscular imbalances. Obviously, I can't do that via YouTube, so you want to talk to them, find those postural issues and those muscular imbalances and correct those as well. I do really highly recommend checking out my desk dwellers video as well if you are post-rehab with a rotator cuff injury. That addresses most of the general populations. I just wanted to combine those words. The general population's postural issues, because most of us are either sedentary or work at a desk. So I recommend doing that in conjunction with these maintenance exercises. So let's go ahead, get started. All you are going to need today is hand weights. I've got 8s, but absolutely go as low or as high as you are comfortable with. If at any time any of this messes with your shoulder and it starts to bother it, you stop. You will also need a foam roller. You do not have to have a foam roller specifically. You can have an exercise ball, works just as well. We're just gonna use it for a little stretching today, so it's totally fine if you don't have an actual foam roller. So let's go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and just get started standing. We're doing 10 reps of everything today. We're just gonna start with some mobility exercises, just so I can get you accustomed to how your shoulders are supposed to move. So I want you to just leave your arms down at your side here. We're gonna go for some shoulder elevations and depressions, and all that means is that we're gonna bring our shoulders up and we're gonna bring them down. I'm gonna do this sideways so you can see, straight up and down. Now you may notice on your affected side, as you go up, you tend to kind of roll back here or maybe roll forward. If you find that happening, if you're doing this in a mirror, I want you to really pay attention to that. Go nice and slow. Try to work out that imbalance. We're about halfway done here. Super easy work, just getting our shoulders warmed up and getting ourselves accustomed with how they're supposed to move. 2 more here. And last one. Perfect. I'm going to turn sideways here so you can see me. We're going to be doing some tractions and retractions. I want you to take your arms straight out in front here if you can. So as we protract, we're going to take our shoulders forward. You kind of feel that humerus leaving that joint just a little bit. And then retract, we're bringing it back. We're really squeezing those shoulder blades together as far as feels comfortable. This is all rotator cuff here. This is what your rotator cuffs do. So, like I mentioned before, humerus is leaving the joint. We're bringing it back to right about here. It's sitting nice and comfortable in that joint. And then we're taking our shoulder blades together. So throughout our exercises, I want you to really focus on finding that spot where your humerus is sitting comfortably in its socket, right where it belongs. It's got about 4 more here, by the way. And keeping it there. More here, and then we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna actually go to the wall, and we're gonna do a wall plank there. Planks are great because they work all of your muscles. They're great for stabilizing. The reason we're doing it at the wall is trying to do a plank on the floor would be just way too much pressure for that joint. So I want you to just do it at the wall here. Hands are right in line with your shoulders. Step your feet back just a little bit. You can be up on your toes if that feels more comfortable. Give those shoulders a nice roll back and down for me. They're in their socket where they belong. We're just gonna hold this for a little while. Make sure those glutes are activating. You're tucking your pelvis under, glutes are active. Keep breathing here for me. All right, we're gonna hold this for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead, walk those feet back in. Grab those weights. We're gonna come back to standing here right in the center. I want you to just use one weight here. We're gonna go for a draw a sword with rotation. So my feet are nice and stable, nice and parallel. I'm gonna be using one hand at a time. Obviously you can do this on both sides. I'm just gonna do everything on one side today, just to show you that you can just do it on one side, just to strengthen up that arm that you need. Obviously, if you wanna do everything on both sides, you certainly can. I will not stop you. I like being nice and even as well. So I want you to take this arm cross body, right to your left hip. Elbow comes up, and we're going to rotate. This is called draw sword. Imagine you're drawing your sword out of that scabbard or sheath, whatever our sword is in. I don't quite remember. And we're gonna rotate with it. Make sure your eyes are going with you. Your eyes guide the spine. Perfect. Just coming back to start right here. Rotating, looking over that shoulder. Got 4 more on this side. This is going to help strengthen those trap muscles as well as those little muscles in your rotator cuff for after your rehab. And again, you want to start with a light weight, work your way up. Perfect. And And last one here. Let's go ahead and do it on the other side. I decided I want to be even. Again, if you only have time to do one side, that's totally fine. Just make sure that you're doing both sides most often so that we're not over strengthening one side and causing a whole new muscular imbalance that we have to work on. Nice. Exhale here as you rotate. Got 5 more here. And then we're going to take it down to the floor for just a second. Last 2. And last one here. All right, we're going ahead, bringing it down to the floor. We're going to be on our hands and knees here. If you have hard surface floor at home where you're doing this, then please use a mat to protect those knees. My carpet is very squishy. I do not need it. We're going to go into some rows, working on strengthening those back muscles as well. So we're just going to switch off on each side. We'll do 20 altogether, so 10 on each side. Taking that weight up by your rib cage. Elbow is coming up to the sky. Really focus on squeezing those shoulder blades together. My core is engaged here as well. I'm not dumping into that low back. Pelvis is nice and neutral. All right, after this, we're going to take it into some reverse flies. Still down here on the ground. It's really important that we strengthen up those back muscles that have gotten weakened out over time and have caused those rotator cuff muscles to work a little too hard. Side here, and we're going to go into those reverse flies. Perfect. Now keep a slight bend in that elbow. Arm is a little bit soft. We don't want to go super straight with that arm, otherwise we're overloading that elbow joint. Bring it on down. Perfect. Other side, same thing here. We're going to go for 20 altogether. This is also strengthening your lat muscle. That's that muscle that runs right underneath your armpit, right along that rib cage. They click into your obliques. They're part of your postural muscles. And they tend to get a little weak because they're not clicking into your rotator cuff and activating the way that they should. Issues, you're not comfortable being down on the ground, you can certainly do all of this bent over in that bent over row position. Nothing wrong with that. I just prefer to do it on the floor because that kind of helps with your shoulder stability. When we do it bent over, sometimes we're not always aware that we're letting that humerus fall out of the socket where it belongs. And doing it on the floor gives you a little bit more of a better guide. But again, if you have knee issues, and even with padding, it's just super intolerable to be down here, then by all means, you can do this standing. All right, last one here. Go ahead, tuck one weight over to the side. We're only going to use one for this next one. We're going to come laying down on our sides here. I like to rest my head right on my elbow here. Legs can be straight, knees bent, whatever is comfortable for you, whatever helps you stabilize. We're just going to go for a little external rotation. So we're keeping our arm, or our elbow, excuse me, at a nice 90-degree angle. Upper arm is like glued to your side the whole time. We're just moving it up and down. Go ahead, grab that weight. You can also do this without weight if you're just starting out. We're going to go for 10. also helps work the delt muscle that again gets weakened with the rotator cuff injury. Two more here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and come onto our stomachs here, laying in a nice prone position. We're gonna work a little bit more on those back muscles. So hands are up by your ears here. I want you to tuck your pelvis under, press it into the floor. That's what's gonna protect that low back. If you find that you still have low back issues in this position, you can certainly bend your knees. That'll help a little bit. So nice deep breath. And as you exhale, I want you to go ahead and lift it on up into a nice Superman position here. Bring it back down. Last one here, and then we're gonna go ahead, roll it on over to your other side. If you're at home, just go ahead, roll it on over. I'm gonna flip around here so that you can still see me. We're gonna go back into that external rotation on our side. And then after that, we're gonna grab that foam roller. We're gonna wrap up with a nice stretch here. So again, upper arm glued to that rib cage, nice 90-degree angle. Go ahead, rotate up towards the ceiling. Halfway there. Two more, and then we're gonna go ahead, grab that foam roller. Last one here. All right, go ahead, tuck that weight on off to the side. Let's grab that foam roller. We're gonna come into a seated position here. Knees bent, feet flat on the floor. We're just gonna go into a nice extension. When we have our rotator cuff injuries, we tend to get really tight in our chest. So we're just gonna go ahead, do a nice chest expansion here. Lower yourself on down. Foam roller is gonna go right below those shoulder joints. And go ahead just as far as feels comfortable. If you'd like to take your arms out to the side like I'm doing, you can, but if it feels more comfortable to keep them by your sides near you, then go ahead. Just breathe here and enjoy this nice chest opener. One more nice deep breath. All right, and we are all done. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for taking the time to really maintain that strength that you gained in your PT and to really prevent any sort of re-injury with that rotator cuff. You absolutely deserve it. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, please give me a thumbs up, please subscribe, please hit that bell, it would mean the world to me. Thank you so much and goodbye.